It's Tuesday, May 31st, 2011. I'm Rim, and this is Geeknights. Tonight, two great warm-up games, Rico and Battle Lines.
Let's do this.
Warm today.
Warm yesterday.
Even warmer today.
Actually, it's the perfect warmness.
Yeah, I like it. It's good weather.
I feel like you should only say warm today when it's so warm.
It actually is warmer. See,
if you're going to turn on the air conditioner, you can say warm today. Just like you only say,
conditioner
woman if you're cold.
I have the air conditioner on.
I don't.
I've had my apartment. Well, the thing is, my building, for whatever reason, just gets hotter. I think it's the big windows and all the rooms, but yeah, if the AC's off, it's like 80-something degrees in here.
I only get hot if all the computers are on and the windows are closed.
Oh well,
and
this
the sun
room
is
in particular,
shining
the Geeknights studio, I basically shut the door and leave the AC on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Though a lot of you, I know Scott put up that CounterStrike server the other day because mine's been out of commission for like months.
Yeah, but my internet was so it couldn't handle it. But
we
the
can't
computer was just fine.
Yeah, and we can't swap PCs because it's not just a random PC. It's actually Scott's HT PC.
Yeah, I'm not going to remove it. I was just, it's the perfect computer to use for a CounterStrike server. Cause
it's wasted when we're not home.
Exactly. It's like if I'm not watching TV on it,
I'm playing CounterStrike. What else would I do?
Right. So it's, what better computer to get dual purpose to, use it more efficiently and not waste it than to use it as a gaming server when you're not watching something in your home theater. But my internet is so slow that when we got to 10 players.
Yeah, it was weird. Like we were playing okay, and then once we got to about 8 players, pings went up, but it was still playable. My ping was like 20 instead of 10.
Yeah.
But then 10 players came in, and guys were sniping me that couldn't see me.
Yeah, and basically I didn't have any problems because I was on the gigabit Ethernets on the same LAN.
Yeah, meanwhile I had a ping of 1,000.
And my ping is still 5. I don't know why it's 5 to go across the room.
You doubted me. I told you need that anti-griefing stuff installed because Scott's like, it'll be fine.
The game has its own built-in.
It doesn't work well enough.
It does. It's if you team kill too soon or if you team kill too many times, you're automatically banned.
It doesn't work that well. There are better ways to do it.
I could have adjusted the numbers to have zero tolerance. One team kill, you're banned forever.
No, because team kills happen, and you want that to be part of the game.
But what it does, you can set a number of seconds where it's the start of the match, and if anyone team kills in that frame, it counts against them.
But team kill, here's the problem. There's a good mod that handles this really well, and while I generally like to play absolutely pure Counter-Strike, I'm okay with a handful of mods that were on the SMD server that I played on all the time, which, get this, when you post in that thread, I gotta find a good Counter-Strike server. I've only played on one Counter-Strike server for 6 or 7 months.
Well, send me the IP of that shit.
It's gone.
I
went in and it wasn't in my favorites anymore. It's just not there. So I got to find wherever it moved to, and I couldn't find it so far.
Well, if there are enough people out there, right? I mean, I tend to play Counter-Strike in phases. I played a whole bunch. I'm probably going to play it tonight, and then I don't play it. And then I played a whole bunch, every months, years, whatever.
As much as I want to play it tonight, I want to get to certain pony-related thing done.
All right. But the other thing, it's I think I've entered a Counter-Strike phase.
I think we'd play it a lot more if we have a dedicated server, because once Scott turned on the all-talk and it was all listeners hanging out, it's pretty fun to play Counter-Strike with a bunch of people.
It is, but the thing is if we pay for a dedicated server, we pay for game server hosting, which is 75 cents a slot at the cheapest for Counter-Strike Source.
How much per year, per hour, per?
It's 75 cents. They based it on slots per month.
Oh, that's actually not that bad because it's not
the
that
thing is
hard
you have to pay more if you want a 100 tick or a 500 FPS server. And then you pay per slot, and you also pay more for Counter-Strike Source than you do for regular Counter-Strike 1.6. But the thing
it is kind of a pain in the ass to administer a Counter-Strike server.
These game hosting things, though, what they do give you is they basically give you an easy web interface to enable mods and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because base Counter-Strike, vanilla Counter-Strike, cake to run. You just install the Linux command line dedicated server, and it pretty much just works. It won't be great, but it'll just work.
You know what's really annoying? So I made a Steam account, and I opened up Steam, and I double-clicked on server, and it installed, and then I double-clicked on it to run it, and it looked like it was running, but it totally didn't work. So then I got the HLDS update tool for Windows, which basically lets you run the Counter-Strike server without Steam.
That's
and,
what you want.
And it totally worked. And I was like, why the fuck don't they just make it work in Steam? It was like the same GUI and everything. I was like, what
More to the point, mod developers for Counter-Strike servers, the community is a little too hardcore old school, so the tools are all really obtuse and pain in the ass to maintain. And
yeah, but if you
configure.
get some of these game server hosting places, they say at least, I can't tell how legit they are from their websites, but they say like one-click mod installation. So I'm sure they've set up stuff to make it easier to administrate because that's their business.
Well, we'll put it this way.
If they're legit, I can't really tell. It seems like there's a bunch of them that are actually all the same company on different domains with different looking sites.
This week sometime, I'll try to get my Counter-Strike server back up because I can host like 20 on 20 with the Fios just fine.
20 on 20?
I could do that.
The STAP computer's powerful enough for that?
The computer might not be that powerful, but the other computer is even more broken than this one. This one's an old computer, but I think it'll work.
We just need 10 on 10. We don't need 20 on 20.
Yeah.
And then we basically just need regular Counter-Strike. This is the thing, is I didn't want to set up my own server, but I couldn't find a server that had a regular map rotation. Every server I found was either a weird mod, like Gun Game or Surf, and I like Gun Game, but I don't want to play Gun Game all the time. Or they were 24/7, like Dust 2 24/7, Office 24/7, and I was like, sure, if I want to play Office, but I don't want to play only Office. I want to play all the maps in a rotation, all the default maps, no weird custom maps.
I do. There are a couple of non-standard maps that are fucking awesome.
Yeah, you know which ones?
Yes.
Ones that are updates of the old maps that aren't in Counter-Strike stores.
There are some original maps. I have a map pack. It was from the SMD server. They had a fantastic rotation. Basically, the deal with them was that they had, the admins and the people who were like kind of tight in that little community. They did for the clan what we used to do for AMVs back at RIT Anime. They play every shitty ass map ever, and they only put into the rotation the absolute most fun, best of the best.
Yeah, but the point is, I want to play all the regular default maps that are built into the game, and hardly any servers, no server that I could find actually ran a map rotation that included more than one of the default maps.
It's all Fox, no items, TMP only.
Exactly. It's like, I want to play, Assault or Militia or whatever. And
Militia's the best.
No one was running, and I want to play, like, give me an update of Oil Rig or some shit. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, there's one map you'll really like. It looks like 1.6, but it's in source, called Westwood. It's just this totally old school, contrived, Wild West kind of village with the shootout. And it's got all that kind of jank-ass shit that you'd see
Plus,
in an
there's
old
all those
CS1.6.
I want to play all the maps that no one remembers.
Mansion?
Like Arab.
Mansion.
There's plenty old or Back Alley.
Do you remember how to make Gordon Freeman's Ghost come out?
I never succeeded in making
Really?
his ghost come out of the pool table. But anyway, or Vegas, right?
I will admit that Gordon Freeman's Ghost coming out of the pool table scared the ever-living shit out of me the first time it happened.
The point is, today I'm going to try to play CS 1.6 and see if I find any servers doing a map
You're not
rotation.
going to enjoy 1.6.
Why not?
Because Source is better.
I'll find out today.
Is better. He's two more than...
It doesn't cost me anything to find out.
Yeah. But by the end of the week, I'm going to try to cobble together and get my Counter-Strike server going again. But I'm not going to do anything fancy with it. I'm just going to get it re-going, and I'll post the IP once it's up.
If that doesn't work, or if it fails somehow, we should consider, and we keep playing, we should consider paying for one if enough people contribute.
Yeah, I'll set up because I can take donations through the store.
Some
of
these
charitable donations.
No, these server places actually have clan donation things as part of the stuff. So it's like you can have it built into the server, the ability for people to help you pay for the server.
Yeah, all right, we'll see. But
people donate money to you, and I think it goes directly to the people you're paying for the hosting and adds credit to your account.
Of course, at the same time, if I have a faster computer that if I ever get it fixed, or if I buy a new computer or whatever, I could run a pretty badass Counter-Strike server here. And I feel like if I pay someone to host anything, I'm kind of wasting my Fios. Because it's wicked fast.
Oh, yep.
But yeah, this weekend I was mountain climbing.
All right.
I climbed Mount Whiteface in the Adirondacks.
Wow. Okay, I will make the thing where I say I could make a joke and not make a joke about racism.
Racism? I thought you were going to make some sort of semen joke.
Whiteface?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Whiteface as opposed to blackface?
Yes.
So I was carrying my burden up Whiteface Mountain.
All right.
And it was a fun hike. I mean, you obviously don't care about mountain climbing.
Not really,
Because you couldn't do it and you're a wuss.
Uh-huh.
Yeah? Yeah, pretty much.
Uh-huh.
But we were gonna climb Mount Marcy, which is more than a mile up. But there was a thunderstorm and a lot of rain. And to make a long story short, we had to hike down Whiteface many miles, basically going pretty much straight down over rocks with torrential rain and water just pouring over our feet and mud everywhere.
Uh-huh.
It was intense and kind of grueling.
Uh-huh.
Great fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So speaking of CounterStrike, I guess it's Tuesday.
I guess, yeah. Let's see. There's not really actually a lot of gaming news.
I kind of disagree with that statement, but all right.
I couldn't find any gaming news we're talking about.
So since you think it is a slow news day in the gaming world, what is your news? What is like the most exciting thing you found?
Well, apparently, right, because the 3DS is out, even though the 3DS came out and there were like no games for it, and there still aren't any games for it, and no one's been talking about the 3DS. It's like it came out, an explosion, and then it's been quiet ever since.
It didn't really explode. It kind of simmered.
No, yeah, I know. It's not even simmered. It was like completely. What's the word for when you put out a fire? Doused.
Now, well, think about this though. When the DS was first announced, right? There were no games for it, and other than hardcore people, no one bought it right away.
But anyway, because the 3DS is out, the DS Lite is going to drop in price on June 5th, which is a few days from now, to $99. If you don't already have a DS or DS Lite, you should buy one as soon as the price goes down, because
why?
it's something that's going to last you forever, pretty much. It's one of those things. It's going to be awesome. I mean, a GBA is still pretty damn good at this point. A DS Lite, even if you buy it now, if you don't have one, and you get one of those piracy cards, you're going to be rocking it for many years, right? I mean, I got every NES, every, Game Boy, every Game Boy Color game ever, and a whole bunch of DS games and a whole bunch of GAVA games, and, it's just this portable thing that can hold some ridiculous number of games. And
see, this is why Nintendo's not making any money anymore. Pirates like you pirating all their games.
You know how many DS games I bought? A lot.
Yeah. Actually, I think more important than owning a
the
DS
ones I pirate, I would not have bought.
is owning a Game Boy Advance, because that's the last one that'll play games all the way back to the beginning.
Well, if you get an SP, then you can play games all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Did you remember this? I didn't remember that this existed until like a couple weeks ago. The Game Boy Player for the GameCube.
I remember that pretty well, because
it's
I
like I remember
had
the Super.
RIT.
I remember the Super Game Boy for
the SNES.
Yeah. But the Game Boy Player for the GameCube, I totally forgot it existed until recently.
I remember as a kid. It's just there's something stupid about kids, but I really wanted the Game Boy Player for the Super Nintendo. Like,
you mean the Super Game Boy?
Yeah, but I really, really wanted it. And when I think back, I owned a Game Boy, and I can't imagine why I would have wanted it, because there was no game on the Game Boy I wanted to play at that point.
Well, because what it did, right? So the Super Game Boy did two things.
It let you have the background around.
Some of the games had built-in Super Game Boy enhancements that would put borders around the game on the TV.
Yep.
And also, you could choose from among 3 or 4 different color palettes, right? Now, the Game Boy Color, right? This is interesting. When the Game Boy Color turned on, you could hold down different button combinations while it was booting to choose from amongst the Super Game Boy Color palettes.
Yep.
But it did not add the borders around it, right? The Game Boy Player for the GameCube also didn't recognize the Super Game Boy enhanced borders, right? But the emulators that you can get for many Game Boy emulators do recognize those borders and display them properly. So it's kind of interesting, like the only Nintendo product ever to recognize the Super Game Boy enhanced Game Boy games was the Super Game Boy, even though their future products did not recognize. Like if you play it on a Game Boy SP, some old Game Boy game that had, the Super Game Boy enhancements, you won't see those enhancements on there.
Nah. I guess part of it was that most of the games I had on the Game Boy were not the kind of game you'd want to sit in front of a TV and play.
Yeah, the only Game Boy game that you really would ever... There's only a few that were TV sittable, like maybe Zelda and maybe the Donkey Kong, and that's
Come on, Game Boy Wars.
Yeah, but you didn't have that shit.
No, I didn't. I had Crystal Warriors on my Game Gear.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I think the thing I was most obsessed with throughout my entire childhood was hooking multiple Game Boys or Game Gears up to play a game. because none of my friends were interested in that.
No, we had people who were interested in it. It's just like you couldn't make it happen because,
Well, one, I didn't know anyone else in the world who had a Game Gear, so there's no way I was ever going to link that up.
I never saw a Game Gear linkage, but I saw Game Boy linkage when we had Pokemon. There was a lot of Game Boy linkage going on with Pokemon, like Red and Blue. And also, I remember on a field trip in elementary schools, there were 4 kids who hooked up their regular Game Boys to play F1 with the four-way.
Yep.
But other than that, it was pretty rare because pretty much the only way you could do it, right, is if there was a rich kid or a spoiled kid, then he would have a Game Boy, the necessary games, and all the wires. But you needed to get lucky and have 3 other... You wouldn't have more than one Game Boy. So you need to have 3 other kids with Game Boys who also had the game in the same place at the same time. And that's pretty rare. And it was one of those things, like the only people who were together enough, in groups enough of gamers to make it happen on a regular basis were nerds and kids, and neither of them really had the money to buy all that stuff. It'd take a unique circumstance. It's like, your story about swords.
Yep.
You never had the desire for swords and the money for swords at the same time, thankfully. But here's a thing that's actually a good thing, not a waste like swords, unless you're a sword person.
Yeah, but at the same time, the mystery would have been ruined.
But
like,
you
for
need
example,
the combination to make it happen.
Crystal Warriors, which was kind of an Advance Wars style, like tactical fantasy, grid-based fighting game with magic and whatever, had multiplayer mode that I never saw. And because there was no good Sega equivalent of Nintendo Power, I couldn't live that vicariously by reading Nintendo Power.
Could have read GamePro.
GamePro didn't talk about Crystal Warriors.
Or EGM.
Didn't talk about Crystal Warriors. So I saw a picture of one shot from the multiplayer game. And to this day, I don't know how it works because no one cares about fucking Crystal Warriors.
That actually is something, right? Is if you go on, say, any website, gaming website, say GameSpot, right? Not GameStop, GameSpot. Right? And you look up, go through the list of new releases, and you'll see it'll show you every game that's going to be released. And the hot games, the big games, right? The ones that people know about, all have scores next to them and reviews. But all the other games, all the shovelware, doesn't have a review or anything. It's just like they have a bare information page.
Oh shit,
about
son,
it.
here's some video playthroughs of single player only.
Right. But if someone were to make a site that actually seriously reviewed all the games that every other site ignored, you could probably get a lot of traffic, because pretty much anyone who searches for any of those, under the radar games is going to end up at your site first as the number one result. And on top of that, there's so many of those games that you would be able to, you'd have to create a lot of content, but you would get a lot of hits because it adds up in that long tail.
True.
Especially on the portable systems, the vast majority, 80% of the games are just ignored.
What we really need to get rid of is the stupid GameFAQs text-only culture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm so sick of GameFAQs and
YouTube is much better for that.
The fact that GameFAQs even has a forum kind of amazes me.
Yeah.
So, if you want to talk some actual news that people care about, I know you don't like the Call of Duty games.
Not a fan of the duties. Duty.
Scott doesn't like Duty, especially the third one, which isn't out yet. But many people have been commenting on the fact, and apparently there was a press blackout, as in there are people in the press who aren't allowed to report on the details yet, which we've talked about that before and the BS around that. But there was an article in, I think, the New York Times, and then a bunch of people were saying, or the Wall Street Journal, and then other people were saying that article wasn't actually accurate, and I don't know the truth. I dug around enough, and I found equal conflicting evidence for multiple versions of what Activision is doing with Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
The gist of it is, and this is legit, Activision is going to charge money, a monthly fee, probably between $4 and $8 a month, which, to quote them, is comparable to something like Netflix. I mean, if you'll pay $8 a month for Netflix, then why wouldn't you pay $4, $5, $6 a month for Call of Duties?
Every Call of Duty or just the one Call of Duty?
Oh, so Call of Duty.
Which Call of Duty are they talking about?
The
Because
new
there's 20 of them. Which is the new one?
I
guess the most popular one
Call
that
of
everyone's
Duty
playing.
Modern Warfare 3,
All right,
which is not out yet.
All right, does that count? Is that on Is this Xbox or just PC?
Multiple things.
So you'd have to pay it even on top of your Xbox Live Gold?
Yes, but here's the thing. At first, people reported that, yeah, you can play just fine single player, but if you want to play multiplayer, you gotta pay. And then that statement got retracted and replaced by a whole bunch of other things. So it's possible that they were testing the waters to see how people would react with like incrementally less offensive options. But you're going to be able to pay a monthly fee to be a member
Why
of
don't you just do a fucking survey?
Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3, or Modern Warfare Elite. And they won't say what this will entail. Other than that, it will involve a social network that's directly like integrated into the game, and maybe stat tracking. Like, well, let's put it this way: CounterStrike. We play CounterStrike right now. Say a new CounterStrike came out, like that tactical insertion game or whatever.
CounterStrike 3.
Yes, CounterStrike 3 on the Source 3 engine is coming out next month, and they said, all right, the game itself is, say, I don't know, $40 forever. You just buy it and you have it.
That's already kind of bullshit because I'm used to CounterStrike being free.
All right, well, all right, fine. Say it's free.
CounterStrike is a free mod. It's not, I don't consider, it was always a mod. I don't consider it to be a game you should have to pay for.
But why? What if someone, they made a new game from scratch that was just Counter-Strike better?
Well, okay, there's one of the guys who originally made Counter-Strike is sort of doing that. So I forget what his game is called, but pretend it's that game.
Okay, so say there were a month, like something that could be in the game, but could only be in the game if they charged a monthly fee for it. Can you think of anything they could put into a game like this that you would pay a monthly permanent fee for to have access to? Social network with clans and stuff built in. Tribes 2 did that out of the box.
But it's called Steam and Xbox Live. Just integrate with that shit. Don't make your own shit. It's what everyone keeps fucking up. Nobody wants...
Scott, then they can't charge you money for it.
No kidding, but nobody wants your fucking separate bullshit. They're not gonna pay money for it. They want Steam or Xbox Live. Nobody wants anything else. Everything else other than those two things that has tried to do this is fail. I guess Battle.net also is good. Those are the 3 successes. Everything else that has tried to do that is fail.
I would argue the Tribes 2 stuff worked just fine, but wasn't
it was fail.
What was fail about it?
It really didn't work.
Well, the fact that it didn't actually work was the only flaw.
Gee, that's a surprise.
Had it worked, it would have been okay.
Yeah, because Steam, Xbox Live, and Battle.net existed, but Steam and Xbox Live did not.
But people are saying that one thing they might offer is map packs, but then the question is, all right, if you stop paying the monthly fee, do you lose access to the maps? If you don't pay, can you only play those maps with people who pay? So no one knows how that'll work.
What if I just make my own map? Can I share it with everybody for free?
Well,
if they don't pay?
Console games that making your own maps usually doesn't work that well.
Yeah, but this is also a PC game.
Yeah. All right. How about maybe they let you run dedicated servers like you can already do for free on the PC?
That should be free.
Maybe people are saying they're going to add detailed stat tracking. Oh, you mean like Counter-Strike does for free?
Well, and other people do for free with their third-party add-ons because it's open.
I guess I can't imagine anything they could offer that anyone would pay for. Now,
no, because we were just talking about running our own Counter-Strike server and paying someone to run that server for us.
But
right?
all right, so one guy pays to run his server. Do the people who want to play on that custom server also have to pay?
No, but what they could do, right, wouldn't be a bad move, is they could be, instead, the companies that are hosting, like GameServers.com, whatever, that are offering Counter-Strike hosting, why doesn't Valve offer Counter-Strike server hosting directly? So I could just go in Steam. That would be so much more trustworthy. I'd be so much more willing to do it too than going to this shady company and just click and it's like, you have bought a Counter-Strike server. Here's an easy GUI to configure it. It's totally standard. It's reliable because the people who make the game are running it. You have full control over it though. I'd pay for that. Right? And then it would be really easy since it's integrated with the Steam account to turn it on and turn it off and be charged by the hour, some really low rate. If it's 75 cents a slot a month, well, just divide that by 30 and make it, 2 cents a slot a day or something like that, or 1 cent a slot per 12 hours, so that way I could turn it on and off when I'm playing, when I'm not playing. You won't have to, and the thing is, that'll solve a lot of your problems where, people can't get their firewalls working or all this other bullshit.
Now, at least,
it'll also help you with cheat prevention because you're the only one most of the servers will be run by the company, so they'll have all this data from the servers to stop cheaters.
Yeah. Now, many of the rumors before this news was kind of half broken talked about how, you have to pay to even play online, but they came out and basically said that's not true. And they definitely said that if you have Xbox Live Gold, you still have to pay for this on top of that to get access to the special features.
That's 100 bullshits.
Yep.
If you're paying for Xbox Live Gold, that means you should get all the stuff. I mean, now why don't they just make it DLCs? Like, look, Street Fighter 4, right? They're doing it actually, I consider the right way, or mostly the right way, considering the fact they do have business interests, right? So Street Fighter 4 arcade mode, I don't know if it's out yet or if it's coming very soon, but the way it works is basically if Super Street Fighter 4, you want to add arcade mode. Basically gets you new characters, and it gives you it changes the balance of the game and some other stuff, right? You have to pay for it. It's a DLC. It's a one-time cost. If you don't pay for it, people who have paid for it can still fight against you in the old mode. So it's like this is backwards compatibility mode where you can still play with those people. You just don't have access to the new mode. It's totally a DLC, but it doesn't limit your online options really at all.
Not a bad way to go about it.
It's like they didn't dick over the people who refuse to pay and still want to play the old way. They just give, an added bonus to the people who do pay for the arcade mode, and it's a one-time DLC thing. But it's not one of those DLCs like where they have some of their DLCs are bullshit, like pay for costumes. It's a real DLC. It gives you characters and stuff like that. So if I started playing Street Fighter again, I would probably pay for it.
What really worries me is that here's a quote from one of the articles. Another feature of the service will give Call of Duty players tools modeled on those from stock trading websites to analyze their performance within the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what they mean by tools from stock trading websites.
In other words, it'll show you graphs of your stuff over time.
Oh, you mean like CounterStrike already does? I can see how often I hit with every individual gun that I've ever used since they rolled this out.
Yep.
Already, just free.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. I think the goal here is not so much to make money immediately, but to get people used to the idea of paying monthly fees for games. Because Rob Dyer said, where's the quote? He's very confident that other publishers will follow Activision's lead. Quote, there's money to be made there.
I think this is just a problem I'm seeing in pretty much all nerd industries across the board, right? Whether it's, gaming or tabletop gaming or comics or anime, right? All these people basically are what I consider the companies to be lazy, right? All they try to do is they say, look, we've sold a zillion copies of Call of Duty. Instead of trying to sell even more copies of Call of Duty, everyone's just trying to get more money out of the people they're already selling to, right? Nintendo is the only one who didn't do that, and now everyone hates them. But what they did is they said, let's just try to sell to more people.
Well, Scott, here's the thing, though. You forget that, Call of Duty as a franchise right now is the 4th and 5th most popular FPS on Steam.
Oh.
Number 1 is still Counter-Strike. 2 is also Counter-Strike.
No, that's too bad.
3 is Team Fortress 2, and Left 4 Dead 2 is right under both Call of Duties.
Yeah. But it's like you don't see Valve has all those games, right? Added together, and they're not charging shit.
All the Call of Duty players online combined on Steam with PCs, which obviously is a skewed statistic, don't get me wrong, doesn't even add up to the number of Counter-Strike 1.6 players.
Yeah.
At least right now, as of 6:59 Eastern Daylight Time.
Yeah. So they got a lot to learn there. Maybe they should try to get as many players as Counter-Strike before they start trying,
The thing is, if you look at
this
consoles,
is only going to decrease the number of players, not
but Scott,
increase.
if you look at consoles, how many people are playing Counter-Strike on their Xbox or their PS3?
It was only on the Xbox One. I don't think Counter-Strike was on the Xbox
exactly.
360.
So, and if you pretend PC gaming doesn't exist, which for the majority of gamers, it effectively doesn't.
I don't know. I think actually PC gaming has made a huge comeback.
It has made a huge comeback, but I still think the majority, if you look at like a cross-section of video gamers as a whole, people who self-identify as video gamers, I would guess that the majority do not have a dedicated gaming PC or even play anything other than Flash games on their PC.
I think there's people play Minecraft and all
I just think they're a surprising minority. You forget how many people have Xbox Live and play Call of Duty.
We'll have to look all this up.
Of course, no one's playing Call of Duty on the PlayStation right now.
I think that's fixed, though. From what I heard.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, though, because I haven't exactly cared to pay attention.
We'll see where all this goes. We'll probably do a follow-up or maybe an episode on this kind of thing.
It's like I can understand paying the monthly fee for the MMO. Like, a MMO, I don't like the game, obviously. But if I liked an MMO, the computer architecture of it pretty much demands that they have some huge centralized servers that are expensive.
Or, for example, what if you paid a monthly fee for a Final Fantasy VI style game where you're paying a monthly fee and everyone else is paying a monthly fee, and it's a pseudo MMO where there's just constant content being added all the time.
Well, that's basically like that's the same thing as if there was a DLC every month and you bought a DLC every month.
Yep, but instead it's continuous. It's almost like an MMO.
Yeah, they trickle the DLC instead of putting it in a blob.
Yeah, well, I guess
that's
I'm
the only
getting at there is
difference
that the subscription model is only really used now for MMOs as the industry defines MMO. I think we did a whole panel where we talked about how that's a stupid definition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
I guess my point is there are games that really would warrant a subscription model. I just don't think that almost anyone in the gaming industry is making those games.
Well, the thing is, number one, they could, if they wanted to, right? Somebody could try really hard to make an MMO-style game that does not have the centralized architecture, that has some sort of peer-to-peer architecture or something along those lines that was pretty advanced, and then they could avoid having to charge the monthly fee, right?
Yeah.
Or, likewise, someone can take a non-MMO style game, but figure out ways to improve it vastly by basing it on that centralized architecture and thus validating the monthly fee. Like, imagine if there was some sort of Zelda game and there was a new dungeon every goddamn day, right?
Maybe not every day, because then there'd be more dungeons than I could beat.
That's the point.
Kind of like that stat recently. I think it's something like 48 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every hour.
Yeah. But I mean, the point, it's like, if a game was just constantly growing, or if there was one Minecraft world for everybody, you pay a monthly fee for that shit.
I would probably pay a monthly fee for that.
There's just one Minecraft world.
Dicks
period.
everywhere.
It's just a gigantic. It'd be as big as like half the universe. That would be interesting if you added up all the Minecraft worlds into one world and then translated them to real size, like based on the size of a real sheep. Right? How much space in real space would it take up? It'd obviously probably be bigger than Earth.
I don't remember the stat anymore, but when I was first getting into Doom modding back in the day, I used Wadded and Windu and all that, and dehacked to like mod Doom, and I made a bunch of cool stuff and a bunch of really amateurish maps that didn't work so well in multiplayer because my cool concepts did not translate into games. But I remember when somewhat like just part of the dev manuals I had talked about how big the world is in real terms relative to the perspective of the player.
Yep.
And
yeah.
I don't really have anything to go with that other than that I saw a pretty scary My Little Pony fan thing someone did where they basically made a Pinkie Pie or Twilight Sparkle who was as big as a continent, and I am under no illusions that person did not make that by hand in Minecraft.
I'm pretty sure they just made an editor.
I don't know. Look at what our forum's doing. I think enough people are enough crazy to make an entire continent-sized Twilight Sparkle.
Get a job.
So things of the day. What do you got for me?
So check this out. This has nothing to do with gaming.
Nothing?
I'm a fan of kinetic sculptures. They're pretty cool.
I like ones where you can move something large in public.
Yeah, those are good. But this is one where you don't actually move anything. But it is in public. Well, I think it's in a museum. It's at the Truck Gallery in Calgary, Alberta, right? From June 3rd to the 30th.
Uh-huh.
And basically what it is it's a whole bunch of big, long sticks, right? And they're all hooked up to cams that are all oriented differently. And the sticks wave back and forth. And it takes about 14 minutes for the pattern of waving back and forth to repeat itself. So it's like, it's a totally different, thing. You couldn't tell that it was repeating, right? A cycle. And what it does is it sort of simulates grass blowing in the wind, right? Like big tall grasses. And it actually looks like tall grasses blowing in the wind.
Are there Pokemon in there?
There might be. But the point is, it's sort of like, hey, if there's ever a time when, it's sort of like, it's called preserving the wind, machine for preserving the wind. So it's like, if there's no tall grasses or no winds or no both ever at a point in the future, it's sort of like, hey, get the idea? It's like, hey, this thing simulates the feeling of looking at the tall grasses blowing in the wind. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, we could talk a lot about even, want to relate this to video games? We're already losing certain kinds of gaming experiences.
We've already lost lots of video games.
And we're losing more. Not just, but
there's people who are studying, like they're only, they're basically working at colleges, working hard to preserve games.
I mean, it's one thing like to emulate a game, like a physical game, like an electromechanical game, as it would be played if it was in perfect working condition. But also, I think there's value in emulating and understanding the broken down condition, the condition that games actually were in for the majority of people who play them.
Yep.
Kind of like how if you had a video gaming museum, there would have to be a Nintendo where the games would glitch out and you'd have to blow in them.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I imagine this far future where kids go to the science museum, they have all the shit out and you like poke at it. Like you go to every station and move whatever thing they let you move and then they all get broken immediately. One of them will be an NES and an NES cartridge on a stick and it tells you to blow into it.
Oh, man. That could be. That's in a museum, but that's our childhood's in a museum next to the ancient Roman artifacts. How you like that? And we're not even 30 yet.
So this doesn't fit in the continuity of the Portal story, but it's cool nonetheless. Some people made a movie, a short little film, about Chell from Portal, and it kind of takes place after the events of Portal 1. Obviously not following on the events of Portal 2.
Wait, so
Imagine
isn't
Portal
this
2 was
old?
never made.
So this is old?
I don't know if it's old or if they just started a long time ago and finished it too late. But it's cute and cool and very well shot, and about halfway through, she uses portals, and they actually look pretty good the way they render them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a cute movie, and I think everyone should watch it.
All right.
Note, it's not on College Humor.
Oh. Okay.
So briefly, in the meta moment, the Geeknights Book Club book is still Isaac Asimov's Foundation.
Well, we'll do that pretty soon, I think.
I got to burn through it. I kind of got distracted by all these game theory books
I was also
reading.
distracted by a lot of things.
Prince
Let's
of Nothing?
do it in a few Thursdays. Yeah, let's do it in a few Thursdays.
How far are you in the rereading of The Prince of Nothing?
I actually paused that also because I was distracted.
By CounterStrike?
By Hajime no Ippo.
Yep. Join the forum, all that stuff. Our forum's rocking.
Yep.
Check out the documentary. I'll just mention this because there's going to be a screening of it at PAX, which is not that far away. But Going Cardboard, we're in that, and other cool people are in that, and it's being made by a cool person.
Pretty much everyone in it is cooler than us, except for us.
It's about, maybe 20% or so.
Yeah.
And it's made by a cool person, and I don't know what else I can say about it right now. But there will be a Q&A and a screening of it at PAX Prime. And we will very likely be at the Q&A to answer questions.
Yep.
Which will be interesting.
Saturday, June 18th is Nerd NYC Recess. I may or may not be there, but if you want to play tabletop games all day, it's like $20. And if you run a game in one of the two slots, then you can play the other slot for free.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning back on the Nerd NYCs lately.
Yeah, well, I mean, not board game night.
No.
But recess.
Though even board game night, I do have the trouble. And I feel like this could turn into a show that I think we've...
Let's do a show on it then.
A show how we've hardcored ourselves into a corner?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've done that.
Okay.
There's not that much else meta. We'll be at PAX Prime. We will very likely be at PAX Dev. The New York Comic Con is far off in the future, and I can't say anything definite, but... there is a decent chance there will be gaming content that many of you who might not otherwise go to New York Comic Cons in New York might care about.
And also Connecticut.
Yes, also Connecticon's upcoming. And I'll leave it at that. Though, we have one last thing. We usually don't beg for money, so I'm going to beg for money for someone else. A good friend of ours, Phil. He's the cool parkour guy who gave parkour lessons at Connecticut last year. So many of you might have actually seen him around. And he does this crazy-ass bike ride. And they raise money.
It's not that crazy.
It's pretty crazy. Could you do it?
If I wanted to.
Could you? Yeah, if you wanted to.
You
should do it.
Then we would need to raise even more monies. Because I asked him, like, how do you, he's like, you need to give like hundreds of your own money, and then you need to raise like thousands from donations. So it's a lot of money to get into it.
Yeah, but we have listeners. I guess it's too late because we're gonna direct all of your charity to them. So it's not Child's Play season. So if you have money...
It is always Child's Play season, actually.
Yeah, but it's not like the big Child's Play season where everyone's going, oh shit, Child's Play.
That's true.
So if you don't want to immediately donate money to Child's Play, I will humbly recommend that you donate a small amount of money to Team Easy Riders because it's for Lou Gehrig's disease, which actually kind of sucks.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, Lou Gehrig...
He didn't want that either.
No, he really didn't.
But yeah, if you they basically need to raise this money to be able to do the bike ride in the first place. So, you know.
Yep, friend of ours, cool guy, and if people do donate to him, maybe we'll get him on the show to talk about parkour.
Or something.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, he's doing something really cool. Maybe he's walking around the world. We'll talk about that later.
We got a lot of friends who are full of awesome that's more awesome than us. But they really have a hard time getting them on the show.
Yeah, mostly because we're lazy and we live in New York.
And people
so
are
we're busy
unreliable.
all the time.
Yeah. All right.
So I guess it's time to review some games. And we got 2 games for you, like you might have heard in the beginning. They can both be played 2-player, though one of them is obligatory 2-player. And I don't know, they're both really good warm-up games. Like, they're the kind of game you play before you play a game. Yo, dog.
Yeah, it seems like the thing is, though, lately we've only been playing warm-up games and no one wants to play real games.
Well, this goes back into we hardcored ourselves into a corner.
Yeah. I guess we're going to have to do hardcore ourselves into a corner as a show then.
Yeah, which is good because we're working on... Basically, we decided that since we can't come back from the event horizon we have passed beyond... We can't play games with the Worldborn anymore, so we're going to lock ourselves in our cathedral and play games with each other.
Yeah. But anyway, so the first game is called Battle Line, or Battle Lines. It's by Rainer Knizia.
It is a direct simulation of a bunch of Greeks pushing against each other.
Yeah, Rim loves that.
Oh, yeah.
So I first played this game at PAX East, actually. Alex got it from the PAX East game library, brought it over. We played it once, and then he put it back. And then I went to the gaming store looking for it, and I couldn't find it. But then I went to the gaming store again, and it was in a different section, and I noticed it because Rim was standing next to it. So I bought it, and we played it a whole bunch more. Basically, this is, if you've ever played Rainer Knizia's, what's it called? Why did the name of the game just Lost Cities, I think? Right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, Lost Cities. It's very similar to that, right? You're playing cards in different columns against the other player's cards. He's also playing in columns, and it's 2-player only. But the way it works is there are 9 columns, and you play your Greek troops, right, that you're drawing from the deck into the different columns. And when you have won a column, as in you have 3 cards on your side of the column, and there is no way, absolutely no way, the cards on the other side of that column can beat you. You win that column.
Now, when we say no way, it's in the way that, you know how if you ever play Hearts or Euchre, you'll be, experienced players, when they're playing with noobs, the noobs will often get very confused when about halfway through a round...
Some guy just opens his hand and is like, I take the rest.
Yep, or everyone just throws down their cards like, that's done.
Yep.
And this game basically puts that into the rules. You only get something when you can say, yes, I've got it. Here's why.
Now, there are also, then you win if you win 5 out of 9 columns, or if you get 3 adjacent columns.
So there's this little bit of posturing and basically, if I had to sum this game up, it's very similar to a Hearts-style game, a trick-taking kind of game, except that, 1, it works really well with 2-player, which most games like that don't.
Yeah, they only need 4-player.
And 2, it adds both some randomness, which we haven't talked about yet, and some strategy to make a really fun experience, even if it isn't the greatest game.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually, I think it's one of the best 2-player games I ever played.
Absolutely.
But there's not that, other than actual war games.
Which will be, a lot
But
of
then again, 2-player games are all sort of have the same flaws that makes them not as good as real good 4 or 5-player games.
The thing is, 2-player games aren't as flawed as 3-player games for skilled players.
That's true. But anyway, the game also has these tactics cards that sort of, have superpowers, but you don't take them into account, right, unless they're already on the table. So it's like, well, I could still win this column if I get this special card, but it's like, well, that's a special card, so it doesn't count. I win this column, right? So that's pretty cool. But
now,
yeah,
the special. I mean, basically, if it were just that, if it was just you lay the cards out, and it's basically poker. There's 6 suits, and there's numbers in this card, and
yeah. So it's like a straight flush is the most powerful.
Straight flush beats 3 of a kind, which beats a flush, which beats a straight, which beats a high card. Like some and
yeah, so it's like all the troops have numbers and colors, and
so like if I'm 2 away from a straight flush, even if it's a low straight flush, and Scott has 2 cards that are of different colors, I can play the third part of my straight flush, and I just get it immediately because there's no way any cards Scott plays that aren't special could possibly make that column beat me.
Yep. Or let's say I've got 8, 9, 10, and they're all green in a column, right? Rim has a 7. Well, there's no way that he can possibly win that column because there's no way the best he can do would be 7, 8, 9.
Actually, I would have won that column anyway because if you have an 8, 9, 10 out anywhere, because if someone gets there first, they win a tie. There is no way to beat that column, and you just get it immediately, even if the other person has never played a card there.
There has to be a way because I could play.
There's nothing you could play that would beat it.
8, 9, 10 is the best possible thing.
If you play an 8, 9, 10, the other person loses, even if they never played a card there.
That's true. But let's say I play 7, 8, 9 in a column, and you have a 6. There's no way that you can possibly do anything that would tie or beat 7, 8, 9 because you already have a 6 in that column. So I win the column.
So the game comes down to a lot of posturing and feinting, and like I see Scott played a 6, 7, but I have the 8 in my hand.
Yep.
So I know there's only one card that'll fill that, so maybe I take a risk and I start building just a 3 of a kind there instead, or a flush there instead.
But then maybe if he needs the inside card, you've got him. But maybe he'll go for the low card or the high card. If he's got 7, 8, he might do 6, 7, 8 or 7, 8, 9. You don't know which way he'll go.
Now the game crooks slightly so in that there's 2 decks to draw from.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like the twist in the game that makes it. If it didn't have this twist, it really would just be about the same level of strategy as a game like Hearts.
Yeah, but the special deck has all the special power cards in it, and the regular deck has all the regular cards. So it's not like you get the special cards randomly. It's you choose, are you going to draw a regular card or a special one?
And you'll never have more cards in your hand, really.
You always have exactly 7 in your hand, period, done. You cannot get more or less.
And there's a neat mechanic where if you play a special card, you can basically never play more than n+1 special cards, n being the number of special cards your opponent has played.
So if Ram has already played 1 special card, he can't play anymore. So if he draws more, those basically fill up his hand and reduce his number of options because he can't play them. So there's really only, if he's got 3 special cards in his hand, 1 on the table, and I have 0 on the table, he really only has 4 options for the turn instead of 7. Then, as soon as I play a special card, now he can play one again, and so as long there's no way to say pile up the special cards and just play them all to destroy the other guy, because that would be sort of pointless. Because everyone would grab all the special cards immediately, be forced to play them all really quickly, and then the game would continue because they are much more powerful than the regular cards. So that mechanic of not allowing you to play more special cards than your opponent, or at least too many more than your opponent, really keeps the balance going. Otherwise, it would be kind of stupid.
Now, the strategy's pretty good. I mean, if you ignore the special cards for a minute, because remember, they don't count in terms of logically winning a column. So you can be in a situation where the other person can't win a column because you have the last card in your straight, in your hand, ready to go anytime. But if the other person, you could be in a situation where maybe that card that'll win the straight is a special card. Then if the other player makes something else and he is guaranteed to win, except for your special card, you lose it. So you're kind of forced to play special cards quickly in certain situations.
Yeah,
or you can lay out, I'll often, when I played with Scott, I don't think it didn't work, but I tried to set up columns hoping that Scott would throw a special card into it to basically draw it out, and then I jump over someone else and try to win.
Yep. But yeah, the thing about this game that really got me is that you really don't want to play a card.
Every turn, I'm like, I don't want to play any of these.
Yeah,
because once you play one in any column, you've committed that fucking column.
Yeah, you can't take any cards back except for a couple special cards that let you do stuff like that. So it's you pretty much never want to play a card, but you have to play one on your turn. But then you have the satisfaction of knowing your opponent feels the same way.
Strategically, you pretty much have to throw cards away on a couple of columns.
There are a couple of columns that you just have to give up on and sort of go for a lower arrangement. And hopefully, if you want your opponent to go first, so if he commits a column to be a dumping column and he's played a second card on it, and you know that his maximum formation for that column is really weak, then you can go for that column with also a relatively low formation that's just slightly better than his trash formation and win that column. And thus also have a dumping ground for cards that you can't use in really high-powered formations.
I almost always draw a special card first, because you play one, draw one.
Well, yeah, you definitely want to get one right away because you start out with 0, so it's always good to have one.
Yeah, and I'll usually get a second one pretty early, so I know what my options are, because I'm not going to see that many special cards throughout the game.
Yep.
And there aren't that many, so having 2 means I know my opponent does not have those 2.
The thing is, right, is when we played, we really held back on the special cards, right? Either because we were held back by the other guy or because we were both holding back.
I hold back on purpose. I always want you or my opponent to get ahead in the game early with special cards, because then they can't play anymore, and I whip all mine out at the end, and there's basically nothing the player can do about it.
Yeah, but it's like I wonder what would happen if both people let loose with the special cards and burn through that deck.
We'd run out, and then the game would continue.
I think the game would actually end much more quickly because
I don't think it would, because very few of them will actually win one for you, and some of them actually make you need more cards.
Yeah, but I think that the vast majority of, if I was going to play a special card, it's because it was going to lock a column in, or 2 columns.
But having too many special cards, you won't have anything to lock a column with.
That's true.
The game really...
You got to sort of wait for like the first bit of the game to
is
pass.
Painful. And the brain feel of this game, kind of like, food critics talk about the mouth feel of a food. The brain feel of this game is very much like, as I've said a million times, hearts or euchre or anything. I'm counting cards. I'm counting straights. It's trickier because I can't use all the mnemonics I've built up over the years for, games like Hearts, because there's 6 suits and there's 10 cards per suit. So my card counting,
I actually fucked that up big time. There was a time in the game when I was looking around and I saw 3 2s on the table and a 2 in my hand. And I was like, aha, there's no way Rim has a 2.
And then I played 2 more 2s.
And then he played 2 more 2s. And I was like, oh, right, this fucking 6 colors. I totally fucked up the whole thing.
Yeah, all the mental equations I have don't work, so I got to wing it. And I guess I'm happy that I was able to wing it pretty well and kind of fuzzy logic my way through.
Yeah.
Now, this game is actually just a straight remake of an older Knizia game, Schotten-Totten.
I never heard of that.
Schotten-Totten is the same game without special cards.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So he basically said, this game's pretty cool. He added the tactics cards, added 1 more card to each suit, and made a new game.
Did it originally have the Greek theme?
No, it's themed based on, mountain people.
Well, the Greek theme is much better. Javelins and shit.
Yeah. I zoomed in more. It's based on Scotsmen.
Oh.
They're all fighting.
Okay.
Beating each other in the head with bagpipes.
Nice.
That's a bare ass right there.
Okay. All right, so there's another game that we played recently.
Yep, Rico, which we played at ZenkaiCon randomly because a guy was there and he's like, it's a cool game, let's play it.
Yep.
And he taught us how to play, and
that's the thing. If you go to a convention, this is just some random advice, right? You go to the gaming library, there's always going to be these weird games that, you've never seen them before, and they're just sort of sitting there in a pile.
Like that Hex Bug game.
Yeah, you'll see a game that looks like a weird game. It's like, what the fuck is this, right? You don't even... It's the kind of game you just overlook it because it's so inconspicuous, and it doesn't stand out as being a big game or a popular game or a fancy game. It's just sort of game you don't recognize, you've never seen it before, but it's hiding. Play those games, because while some of them suck, you're going to find hidden gems in there, right? So Rico is one of those games. It's just like an oddball, game that was totally inconspicuous, wasn't popular, never heard of it before, just sitting on a table. But we played it, and we discovered something kind of good.
Yeah. So it's another card kind of game where you've got suits and you play cards, but the way it works, there's 4 colors, 4 tiles, 4
There's
areas.
4 trash plants.
So when you play cards from your hand, you can play any number of cards, but you have to play at least one of one color. So if I have 4 red and 1 green, I can play 1 green or 1, 2, 3, or 4 red.
Yep.
And you have to play it on the column that matches the color.
So your red cards have to go in the red trash bin, and your yellow cards have to go in the yellow trash bin.
You then draw from that same pile, the same column on the other side of this middle card,
Right.
all the cards that are there. And it's always replenished to be 1 plus the number of cards that are already on the top.
So, for example, at the beginning of the game, every trash bin has 1 card in it, which is a random card. So let's say the green trash bin has a blue card in it, right? I can play any number of green cards into the green trash bin. So I play 2 into the green trash bin. I then take that 1 blue card that's in there. Now, because there are 2 in the green trash bin, we draw 3 at random. So the next person who puts any green cards in the green bin takes those 3 random cards that are now in there.
Yep. So as you play closer to, because basically once you hit 4 in, so if someone puts in a number of cards on a column that makes the total of cards that were put in by players 4 or more, they all go away. They take a little token, which has a number of victory points on it, starting at 0. Well, we'll save the numbers on them, but it has a number of victory points on it. You take that into your hand, and then you take all the cards at the edge.
So if you're the one who finishes off a particular trash plant and puts it over the top, you get some victory points from the chips. But you're also probably going to take a whole bunch of cards into your hand from the other side of it because it's close to full, so it's probably going to have at least 3, probably 4 cards in it.
And thus, the trick with this game. anytime you draw cards into your hand that are greater than 5, you have to discard down to 5, and every one you discard is -1 victory points.
Now think about that, right? I play 1 card at the beginning of the game. I play 2 and I draw 1. So now I've decreased my hand size by 1. That's good. Then I play, 2 and I probably draw like 3. Your hand size is growing. If your hand size grows over 5, you lose points basically. So everyone pretty much poisons the well and makes all the trash plants super dangerous. So that way taking victory points is going to actually cost you victory points, because even though you get a chip that's worth points, you're also going to lose points from having too many cards at the same time.
Yep, so you lose points, a lot of points, for illegally dumping. Now, if you manage to make through the whole game without ever illegally dumping, you get a pretty crazy bonus.
Good luck with that shit.
Very rarely does anyone pull that off.
Never.
I've seen it, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So the other shtick to the game is that the tokens that get positive victory points, there's a little pile on each column. The values go 0, 1, 2, 3, 3, -2, 4, 5.
Right, so if you take the 0 or the 1, you're actually probably going to be losing points in total, or breaking even, because even though you took a chip, you're going to lose points from taking too many cards. So if you're if you take the 0s and the 1s, your score is actually going down. But
typical end scores of this game are between -4 and 3.
Yeah, but if you make it to the end, it's pretty. If you play well, you can get to the end of the game with scores of like 0, right? And then if you manage to be the one to take like the 4 or the 5 chip, you're gonna get a lot. It's a lot of points right there, and that will probably win you the game. But as soon as somebody takes a 5 chip, the game ends immediately, which makes it really, really rough, because there's 20 points worth of 5 chips, but only 5 of those points actually get delivered to anybody.
Now, the game's a little less strategic, I would say, than Battle Line, because you have less information. And
you pretty much got to play it one turn at a time.
Well, here's the thing. This is a game where there are, it is partly random. It is mostly random. Many times when I lose or win, or Scott loses or wins, it is obvious that there was no better decision the person could have made. But there are ways to optimize your play of this game.
Yep.
One, you have to count cards religiously. You've got to know what's in everyone's hands.
Yeah, remember, nobody's drawing any cards that are face down. They're only drawing face up cards.
Other than their initial loadout of 3.
Than their initial cards. But what if they do go over 5, they discard some cards.
And you don't know what they discarded.
You don't know what they
down.
discarded, but you know what all the possibilities are. So it's possible to remember what's in everyone else's hand.
Now, a human's probably not going to remember it exactly, because that's kind of difficult to do,
but
especially with 5 players.
All you really need to know is, does he have green? Does he have 2 green? That's all you really have to remember is, does he have this color? How many of that color does he have? You don't need to memorize his entire hand
So
exactly.
This is a good game, for practicing these kind of deep strategies. So, buy this game. It's cheap. Buy both these games. They're both pretty great.
If you can find them.
But for Rico, really, play it as a warm-up game to another game, and while your friends will be good or bad or whatever, and the game's kind of random, it's a great game to practice some very important skills. Pay attention and try to count cards. Learn mnemonics. Learn how to know pretty reliably what's in everyone else's hands.
Yep.
And 2, count how many cards are already in play, have already come out, so you know what's remaining in the deck, what the statistical odds are of getting one card over another. And if you maximize those skills, you will slightly increase your chance of winning this game, and you will greatly increase your chance of winning most other games.
Yeah, for example, if let's say the 5 point is open on the red plant, right? I know that Rim has 2 red cards. So I'm not going to play 2 red cards, because that would allow him to put it up to 4 and take the 5. I'm going to play 1 red card there. That way he can at best put it up to 3, which means I'll be able to take the 5 if I have another red card.
The second thing you need to do is, and this game is almost identical mathematically to a game I call sticks. People call it different things, where you draw 5 sticks, 3 sticks, and 2 sticks, like lines on a piece of paper. And you take turns crossing off any number of sticks in one row. Whoever picks up the last stick by crossing it off loses. And the game alternates effectively between stable and unstable states. An unstable state meaning one where someone can push the game to ending. A stable state meaning the game will continue. So you want the game to be in an unstable state, because if it's in an unstable state and the other person messes up or is forced to make a move, then you win. So you want to make the game as unstable as possible when it's not your turn, and as stable as possible when it is your turn.
Yeah, so it's no matter which pile you go into this turn, you will lose points, because they're all at -2, and they all have 3 cards in them.
So you've got to learn basically modulus math while you're doing all this. You've got to be able to count forward through the game iteratively and be able to say, my turn, his turn, he'll have to play something that will make one of those twos go away. His turn, I'll be good. And then from there, you decide how much to stabilize or destabilize the game on your turn. Those are the only two skills in this game.
It's pretty much you got to take turns poisoning the well and drinking from the well, right? And
You're gonna drink poison.
And if somebody drinks from the well, there's no poison left because they drank it all. So it's like, all right, my turn. I poison it. What are you going to do on your turn?
Double poison.
Double poison. All right, my turn. I have to drink. Great. Now there's 0 poison. So what does Rim do on his turn? Poison again.
Oh, Gertrude.
Right. So it's like you want to be the poisoner, not the drinker, as much as possible.
But you're going to drink the poison because
you
it's
have
in all
to
the cups.
Right, because eventually all the wells are poisoned and you're thirsty.
So they're two great warm-up games, and I recommend if you see them for cheap, just pick them both up.
Rico might be harder to find.
Yeah, I had some trouble getting it on Amazon, and the first 2 vendors I bought it from apologetically emailed me later saying they couldn't actually find it.
Yeah, but Battle Line shouldn't be that hard from any board game specialty shop.
Yeah, and you could make Schotten-Totten if you wanted to pretty easily for the deck of cards.
Yeah, you could just take you just need 60 cards, 10 of each color, and 9 little pawns, and you could play the game.
Yep. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.